Hi, welcome to Yia Yia's Christmas Cookies, Kourambiethes. My name is John Lampiris, and this is me when I was a little guy with my grandma Bessie. We call grandma in Greek Yia Yia, and I was wearing the Greek Evzone outfit. It was what the Greek soldiers would wear, even when going to battle, but it was more their dress uniform. Well, thanks for joining me. We're going to make Yia Yia's recipe of Kourambiethes, a famous Greek Christmas cookie. I hope you enjoyed this video. These are all the tools, the cooking equipment that you're going to need to make Yia Yia's Kourambiethes, Greek Christmas cookies. You'll need a knife to cut the butter, a spatula to squish and mush everything around. You'll need a 1 teaspoon vessel for the vanilla extract. You'll need a 1 tablespoon for the brandy. You'll need a 1 cup for the flour. You'll need a 1/2 cup for the powdered confectionery sugar. You'll need a other container. It doesn't have to be a measuring cup, that we're going to use to put part of the mixture together. You'll need a small bowl for tenderizing, softening up and the butter. A big mixing bowl where it's all going to go into. You'll need a hand mixer to mix everything together and make it nice, smooth, and pliable. And you're going to need a sifter in order to put the powdered sugar on the top when the cookies are done cooking. You'll also need 2 to 3 pans, because one recipe will make about 110 to 120 cookies. These are the supplies you'll need to make your cookies. I like using parchment on my pans. It lets the cookies cook nicely on the bottom without getting burnt or stuck to the pan. We'll use some stretch wrap later when the cookies are done to packaging for distribution. Some wax paper. I like to put the sifter on the wax paper so I don't lose any of the confectionery sugar or make a mess. We'll need 2 eggs, 1 pound of unsweetened, unsalted butter. We'll need some vanilla extract, some brandy, some confectionery sugar, and some flour. You'll also need, for the packaging, some nice way to hand them to the people you're giving them to. I like using these red paper plates, little cups for the cookies, and a little sign that says Merry Christmas. Now, if I had them in Greek, they would say Kala Christougena. The first ingredient we're going to start with is the butter. It is a key that the butter is softened just right, but I'm kind of an impatient guy, so I like to cut up the butter, put it in a bowl, and then put it on the microwave oven to soften it up a little bit quicker than just waiting. So what I like to do is I just cut the butter up in pieces like this. And I put it into this bowl. You do the entire pound of butter that way. Once the entire pound of butter is cut up into little tabs like that, I like to put it in the microwave oven for about 3 minutes at half power. You might want to experiment with that and do it just a little bit at a time so that you don't melt the butter. You just want to make it mushy. You don't want to melt it. While you're waiting for the butter to soften, you want to make your first mixture. And you're going to put together vanilla extract, powdered sugar, and the yolks from 2 eggs into this measuring cup. The easiest way to separate the yolks is to keep transferring the yolk back and forth from each half of the shell, and it separates the yolk from the white. It's kind of yucky, and if you break the yolk, it's okay. Just want to get all the gook off we can get. Let me try that one more time. Even my yolk is broken, and we put that right in there. We do the second one. Same way. Back and forth. It will automatically separate. We put that in there. Then we're going to put the 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract in there. 1 teaspoon right in there. And we're going to add to that a 1/2 cup of the powdered sugar. Now, with most Greeks, we usually put more than less. So I kind of put like a little bit more because I like my cookies sweeter. Okay, so we get that in there, and now we just mix it all up, and then make a nice fine paste. So you just mix that up, and it makes a nice fine paste. A little bit thicker because I added more powdered sugar, but it really turns out nice. Okay, so that was 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 1/2 cup of powdered sugar, and 2 egg yolks. We'll put that aside until we mix it in with the butter. My butter is all nice and mushy now. I'm going to put it in my big mixing bowl before I blend it into a nice, smooth, pasty type of concoction. Notice that it's not too drippy, so this is a really good consistency for your cookies. And then I'm going to use my hand mixer. Look how nice and fluffy that is. I'm going to pour then that other mixture we made up of the extract, the powdered sugar, and the egg yolks. I'm going to put that right in there. I'm going to try to get all of it that I can, because you know I like more than less. Once I poured that mixture in, I'm then going to add my 2 tablespoons of brandy. And I like to put a little bit more than that in there, but I'm not going to. Well, I did anyhow. You know, it's old habit. And then we're going to start mixing in our flour, 4 to 5 cups of flour, little by little, and blend it all together. So I'm adding my first cup of flour, and then I'm going to start blending it all together. And it's going to blend pretty well. You mix it for quite a while. Make sure it gets all mixed in good, all the parts of it and everything. You got to be careful because this stuff, once it gets a little thicker, will fly all over the place. That's why I wear my Kourambiethes embroidered chef's apron that my cousin Carol bought for me for one of my birthdays. I'm going to be adding the other cups in, and you'll see the consistency as it develops. As you can see, it's pretty much the same consistency after 2 cups of flour. I'm going to add a 3rd cup, and then we're going to see, because it's very important that you just get just enough flour in, not too much and not too little, for the cookies to come out real flaky. Now this is with my 4th cup of flour in here, and you can see that it's getting harder to mix with a hand mixer, but it still works out really good. So you speed it up just a little bit, but you gotta watch, if you lift up those spinning blades, it's gonna just fly all over the place. And you don't want to do this, but it's coming with a really nice texture. But this is what it's like after that 4th cup of flour. I would not mix more flour in just yet. Once we're through mixing it, we're gonna feel the dough to see if it's still sticky. At this point, you feel the dough, and if it feels just a little sticky, that's when you stop using the mixer and you blend in a little more flour using your hands. You knead it like bread. Now what I like to do is I wash my hands, sanitize my hands, and then I wash my hands again so I could get the sanitizer off, because I wouldn't want sanitizer in my cookies, but I want it to be clean. So you just dig right in and you start kneading in flour until it loses its stickiness and becomes a really nice, smooth dough. And you could do this in your bowl or out of your bowl. I always start in the bowl. I usually end up just on my countertop or on a piece of wax paper. So you just knead your dough like that, and you keep kneading it. Add more flour as needed to make sure that it is smooth and all together, but not too much, because you don't want it to get crumply on you. And this is definitely going to need a little more flour on it. This is where you go between your 4 cups and your 5 cups of flour. Right there, you see that? Isn't that cute? Oh, I love this. Okay, so I'll be back to you in a moment. So look at that nice little cookie loaf right there. Isn't that pretty? Yeah, we're getting ready now to start balling up our cookies and putting them in the oven. This is a good time to preheat your oven. You preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You're going to cook the cookies between 20 minutes and 25 minutes, depending on how your oven reacts, and you got to check on them periodically. Now, I always overdo it. I always make my cookie balls way too big. The neat thing is, these are supposed to be small cookies that just melt in your mouth. And the powdered sugar that you'll put on them later makes it better. So what you want to do is, I like to use a 3-finger thing. I don't use like a teaspoon or a tablespoon. And you just take that ball and you roll it up in your hand. And this is like a really nice size. Okay, just to get a size at it, this is my sifter and this is my ball of dough. And you put them on your pan, and you'll get probably close to 50 of these on each one. I have a tendency again to go bigger and bigger, and then the cookies don't fit in the cup holders because they expand quite a bit. So you just ball them up like this real nice. Try to make them as smooth as you can, but don't forget you'll be covering them with powdered sugar. And once they're in somebody's mouth, they don't care what they look like. I'm telling you, these are wonderful Christmas cookies called Kourambiethes. And this is my Grandma Bessie's recipe, handed down to my mother, Despina, and given to their son, grandson, and son, Yani. Okay, so you'll do those, and don't forget, preheat your oven to 350. And yes, once again, before I balled up the dough, I washed my hands, sanitized my hands, and washed them again. This is what my tray looks like, my first cookie sheet. It has 40 cookies on it, on top of the parchment, which will let them cook nicely without the bottoms burning. And make sure that before you put them in the oven, that your oven is already preheated to 350, or else that's really going to mess up your preparation time as far as overcooking or undercooking them. Okay, I'm going to finish up my other pans and then we'll put them in the oven. Well, this batch is going to make for me about 100 cookies. In fact, exactly 100 cookies. And I'm ready to stick them in the oven. It's important that you check your cookies after 15 minutes because here's an example. These cookies are totally done. They could be done a little bit less, but they're done. They were on my bottom shelf of my oven, and my oven's kind of weird. So these cookies only cooked 15 minutes. The other cookies that are in the shelf above will end up cooking for another 3 or 4 minutes. Now you want to make sure that your cookies cook thoroughly, because when you break them, you want them to crumble up real nice like that. You don't want them to be doughy. Okay, this is the best part of the cookie, that it crumbles up, like explodes in your mouth with the powdered sugar. While my cookies are cooling, I like to pre-set up my trays that I'm going to give out as gifts for my cookies. I'll be adding a lot more cookies than those cups are there. It'll probably hold about 20 to 24 cookies. And you definitely want to put your cookies, and you want to sprinkle the confectionery sugar on your cookies when they're in the tray so they look nice and when you give them out. Okay, we're ready to put on the powdered sugar. This is part of my favorite thing. This tray is holding about 24 cookies, which is a nice amount of cookies to give a family or to a small business or something like that. Or a customer or client, you know, making your own cookies. They appreciate the effort and everything. I like to put a lot of the powdered sugar on there because you know I'm Greek and I like more. And that's about the sprinkling right there. I like to add a little Merry Christmas sign like I showed earlier, or Kala Christouyena. And later I'm going to be putting saran wrap on it and getting it ready for delivery. So there's my Yaya's recipe of Kourambiethes, all set, ready to go to give to people. They really appreciate them, and I personally enjoy making them because it makes me feel like I'm back at home with my grandmother who lived with us and my mother. We had a great time and we would joke and laugh, and of course I'd always sneak a few cookies on the side to have. Thank you for watching this video, and God bless you. Have a great Merry Christmas.